Good evening. So, long day. Friday night, well, actually Saturday morning at 1 o'clock. And I wanted to just get this video out, stay in my my trajectory to build the channel, and been trying to create a video a day, skipped a day recently. Taking a break, and I wanted to just put some thoughts out there tonight. I don't have any specific aim in mind. Thinking about how things changed with the conflict with Iran recently, and the Strait of Hormuz, and all the bluster from Donald Trump, and Israel's quick descent. Seems like the world has reached a certain saturation point. I think there was about 3 or 4 months after October 7th that there was so much propaganda going out, pro-Israel propaganda, that people were still discombobulated. Just from the shock and overwhelming information coming down the pipeline. And I think there were many groups and individuals who were standing by unknowingly, like Norm Finkelstein and Amnesty International, and pretty sure Amy with Democracy Now! Was also geared up, but again, unknowingly, because these institutions and private individuals they've known about Palestine for decades and decades, and they've known about the apartheid state and how it hides behind propaganda, and largely supported by the evangelical institution and institutions in America. Another sign of status quo, mental health decline. And in some ways, status quo initiates mental health barriers, and because there's a compromise there when you choose to stay within the framework of the status quo. There are some limitations there. They're not obvious because many people haven't gone out on their own and risked following their feelings and conscience. It's like they question their questions rather than their answers. And but back to Israel and October 7th and people's perceptions changing. That's when a lot of independent media outlets, Electronic Intifada, Democracy Now. I know that private individuals, Elon Pape, Gabor Mate, Norm Finkelstein, they came out and started doing a lot of interviews and critiques and cross-examinations of pro-Israel guardians, and were pretty much destroying them in every turn. There's not much you can do with the presentation of facts. You can try to spin it, build straw men, and try to deflect and deny or distract. But if you spent any time with the information itself teaches you how to stay poised and undiminished by ignorance and reactionary frameworks. And there's a certain quality of mind with reactionaries too. They hop around a lot and don't stay fixed in one place. And it goes to show that they haven't studied what they've been engineered to dislike or fight against. It's an emotional belief, and the emotions are the only thing that are involved. There's no intellect. And I think there's certain things that simply the emotions being involved are great. Playing games and having fun and listening, going to a live concert or a gathering of friends, but not Holocaust scholarship. It's when it comes to human rights and violations and resisting against it and putting information out into the public eye. It's not so much about having fun. It's not that vibe. There is an earnestness about it that has a positive effect, but it's focused and hard work, and so it's not it's not meant to be flippant, although reactionaries treat it as such because they want you to mirror them so they can diminish you, and because they're already diminished. So it's like a mirroring going on. They're trying to build a mirror onto your ideology or method, so that they can argue with themselves. And it's a curious bit of voodoo. Also thinking about how America treats the islands off its coasts, and Cuba, Haiti, Puerto Rico. Not that Hawaii is necessarily off its coast, but it's one of the states, and it was colonized as well. And Canada was colonized. this moral discrepancy that tends to be like a subconscious baked into everyday life. It supports things that those things themselves don't really think about. They don't make the connections. So they don't really have a conscience about it. They just simply go about their day, unknowing that people elsewhere are paying for their day. People elsewhere are paying in brutal misery for their day to go well. And I think as the internet grows and independent journalism grows, connections become more finite, people will start to figure this stuff out and demand more of themselves. But again, it's not something that's going to come from necessarily the outside as far as the work that's needed, but the sparks can come from the outside that can ignite something in people. And so that's kind of part of these videos that I'm doing, hoping that it helps in some way. Back to Iran. Again, not much planning, not much thinking, not much feeling around approaching Iran, illegally starting a war, assassinating their supreme leader. No understanding even of what a supreme leader is, and a lot of misinterpretations around Iran. I think it would be good for people who are curious to watch documentaries about Iran, not U.S. State Department propaganda, that focuses on certain groups and individuals that they make out to be terrorists, and then they speak about them in a narrative way, in a victim mentality. But what they don't tell you is that the person who wrote the narration that's dubbing over U.S. State Department propaganda is the victimizer, and that the people they're speaking about are their victims. And those people are simply resisting, and they've been put in an uncompromising position by the CIA, Mossad, of course, the proxy Pentagon, and other G7 entities, MI6, etc. So there's a lot of criminality that goes unchecked, and then it becomes a lifestyle, and citizenry will have to figure out a way, civil disobedience, creative ways to put pressure on the system to look in the mirror and set new standards. Not the system itself set new standards, but people outside the system who can grapple back some of the power that's needed to make some changes. What I figure is more probable is that events will occur, and those events will be tragedies and surprises, and those events will be the teachers, and the power exchange will not come through necessarily private citizens at once. It's going to come through events, and then there will be hopefully slow change, fast change. It's hard to say. Maybe a little bit of both. Iran is an extraordinarily beautiful country. It's a fortress built by nature. Pretty extraordinary. It almost looks like a super volcano because it's pretty much completely surrounded by mountains. And very complex geography. A lot of minerals and, of course, oil and a lot of byproducts as well. Something I learned that, of course, petroleum is the base ingredient for a lot of other products like propane and kerosene and fertilizers and such. And is at least it's part of the production of those products. And so it's a huge situation happening over there. The strait has opened back up, but I'm betting that Israel will sabotage the ceasefire as they pathologically do. And we'll see what happens. They've been avoiding looking in the mirror for decades, if not centuries, and we'll see. I'll see how it goes. And yet, Israel is no reflection of worldwide Judaism, although there is going to be a reckoning because many of those who claim to be Judaic Zionists, which is impossible. You can't be a Judaic Zionist. It's simply irreconcilable situation. I mean, it's a hypocritical mindset. You know, it's sort of like being an atheist Christian, or a vegetarian carnivore. So it's the trouble that's going to mount is that those who are devout in Judaism have supported Israel for a long time and from a distance, and knowing about the Palestinian situation. But when you're at a distance, even when you live in Israel, you can conveniently compartmentalize that and live two separate lives, one in compartmentalization and denial, and the other whimsical, religious, devout person. And yet, in living those two different versions of oneself simultaneously, there's no footing. It's like a house plant slowly floating down a mountain stream. There's no pot. It's growing and it gets sunlight, but eventually it will lose its soil around the roots, and the roots will get oversaturated, and the plant will just turn to mush. And this is what's going to happen. This holding of two opposing ideas as one mental state is going to double back on itself. and uh, the competition will commence between the human being and the two versions of themselves that they have constructed to go about their day to day. There's going to be a lot of dark nights of the soul and nervous breakdowns, uh, ecstatic confusion, not in a good way. Uh, because the ego is going to be in a crisis. They'll, if Israel does not have enemies to deflect upon and blame for what they're feeling inside, those feelings are going to crawl out of the bed sheets in the middle of the night and wake them up. And it's going to be a serious situation, both in Israel and outside of Israel, because it's already starting this call for accountability. And there's going to be a huge reckoning where people will start asking those who are devout, how is it that you can convince yourself that you're one thing and then you're also another, which contradicts one another? It's like there's going to be a lot of lost souls wandering around. So in Gaza, unresolved starvation, disease, homelessness, orphans, the unburied. For me, the islands off the coast of America are also a kind of result of ethnic cleansing in a way. The sanctions, the neglect, basically cleansing those places of sympathy and compassion, and money, aid, Christian values. So it just goes to show you that outside of a personal interpretation and practice of religion, religion as a unit, as a force, is dubious at best, or schizophrenic, or bipolar. You choose your metaphors, but it's if it goes beyond one person, there's no guarantee that religion will maintain its center. That's been my observation, and do with it what you will. But I feel like reason, constructive criticism, maturing morals, ethics. Without these, religion is lost. It's not to say there aren't morals within religion, but religious morals are oftentimes not as I would say anchored as simple morals that aren't connected to a dependent. Or a bias. And religious differences will often influence moral interpretation. Whereas if you get into baseline morals prior to religion, they simply are what they are. And it's a very short list. The longer the moral list gets, the more diluted morals get. For example, you could say, don't hurt another's feelings. That's it. And that would basically erase 95% of the abuse that the U.S. State Department promotes across the world. The other 5% is, I would say, like abstract things that occur under the table that citizenry don't really feel or are affected by per se. So Iran is teaching Americans how to grow up. It's been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. I bring it up often that they've been cultivating roses for over 1,000 years. That's almost 5 times longer than America's been around. So, or at least 4. So there's a whole other scale of relativity that they're working on, that their lineage and ancestry is rooted in. And root in something. I mean, even if you're a mutt, like I am in America, research your ancestry. And if you're whatever combination, root into that, because that's a guarantee. Go to ancestry.com and fool around over there, get a DNA test, find out your ancestry, and use your genetics to root into something real, rather than assume the American culture is going to do anything for you. I mean, give it 1,000 years and maybe there will be a kind of culture here. Some sort of hybrid of some kind, who knows? But the gene pool is the gene pool, and there is no specific gene pool that you can call American. It's more of an ideology, a headspace than genetics. And I think there's some things that we take for granted, that commonality does have advantages, but it also has weaknesses in being limited to certain assumptions about your particular race or genetic background. It can be a framework that denies you to be taught by others. Not that it denies you objectively, but that you choose to deny or look at other cultures and learn. So just be careful that you don't. If you're Scottish, then don't fall into the trap of ethno-supremacy or some sort of comparison with the Irish, or get into an ego battle with some old propaganda that you find in a genealogical snippet or something. It's every culture, every gene pool has its ego, and try to remain a neutral individual if you can. Yeah, I think that's maybe it for tonight. Searching my files if there's anything else, and long day again. It's I'm kind of just barely hanging on, so I see my tired eyes, and thank you for supporting the channel, and be good to yourself, and keep pushing forwards. Thank you, and good night.